So type 1 is the one that you have when you were a kid.
Type 1 is you're born with type 1 and your insulin enzyme not working.
Well, I think type 2 diabetes is also known as adult onset diabetes caused by too much sugar.
The librarian at my school had type 2, which didn't require the insulin shots, but there was something else you had. I think there's pills, but I don't really know why.
Well, type 1 diabetes is really, the first thing is we don't really know what causes type 1 diabetes, like was explained. And also it's generally a disease of younger people. And generally the people that are diagnosed are thought to be slimmer people. And I guess the biggest thing is that there is nothing that brings on, we don't know what brings on the diabetes. And in type 1 diabetes, generally the pancreas shuts down and after a certain period of time will not produce any insulin anymore. Type 2 diabetes is more around lifestyle. So it used to be that it was older people that developed type 2 diabetes, but now it's even younger people getting type 2 diabetes because of a few things. The way we eat in our society, the portions we eat, the types of food, also the lack of activity is increasing the risk of people developing type 2 diabetes.
Most commonly, kids are diagnosed between the ages of about 8 to 16 or 17, but kids could be diagnosed as early as being an infant or as late as into their 60s or 65 or older, although it's not that common for people that sort of outside of that age range to be diagnosed with type 2. So a person with type 1 diabetes needs to do a couple things to stay healthy. First and foremost is they need to take their insulin. So if they don't take their insulin, then their blood sugars become high, and that, if left high for a long period of time, can cause complications later on. Secondly, for people with diabetes, it's really important for them to eat healthy and exercise. We used to say that a person with type 1 diabetes had to follow a special diet, or they couldn't eat certain things and they could only eat certain things. We don't say that anymore. We know a lot more about food, and we have a lot better insulin to deal with food. So what I recommend for my patients is that they eat a generally healthy diet, so including lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grain foods, dairy products, lean meats or proteins, and have the occasional junk food. So, and I would recommend that for somebody with diabetes or without diabetes. So this machine measures what we call a hemoglobin A1C, and what that is it's a percentage of how much sugar is attached to red blood cells. So it kind of gives us almost like an average of somebody's blood sugars, of all of their blood sugars over the past 3 months. So this is one of the tools that we use to evaluate how somebody is doing in their diabetes care.
We also have seen the invention of continuous glucose monitors, and I just took mine out on the way here in the car because it's on day 7. It was no longer reading accurately. But normally I like to wear my continuous glucose monitor because it communicates with...
Really, at the time of my diagnosis, I did feel like I was the only person in the world with this disease, because you don't meet a ton of people your same age with type 1 diabetes. It's a fairly rare condition. It's only maybe 1 in 150 people have this condition, and so I felt pretty alone until, with time, I met other people with diabetes.
No matter how hard you try, you're going to have some ups and downs. But when you try more and more, you're going to start getting into a tighter range. And that's certainly been my experience. When I first started rowing, I had some horrendous blood sugars.
On a daily basis, it's made me stronger as a person to take on all the other challenges that came up as an athlete, you know, that affect all the other people, but I was stronger because of diabetes.
But many people who meet me don't know that I have diabetes. Initially, it wasn't the first thing I'd tell people when I met them. It would eventually come up if they saw me, you know, taking a needle or testing my blood sugar, and then I would just try to tell them about it and try to educate them about it, because most people don't know that much about what it's like to live with diabetes. And some people still don't understand even after you tell them, but that's okay. You do your best to try to educate people, and that's all you can do, I suppose.
I feel like I was lucky because my little sister had diabetes before me, so it made me think that I had to be strong for her. So I was able to poke and give needles because I didn't want to, you know, not be able to do something that she had to as well. However, later on in my teenage years, I started to become a bit more rebellious and skip out on some of the important steps I needed to do. And it definitely made me pay the price. So now I'm a very big advocate for doing your tests and doing your insulin and counting all your carbohydrates.